In the mood for a freshly roasted cup of coffee? www.offtherailscoffeeroasters.com.
This time I'm making sure it's recording. Last week we had some technical difficulties, and we're going to try to not let that happen again. But we are trying something new with our technical stuff here. So I'm going to be breaking this up into pieces so that it's easier to send to my technical people, so that we can get it to you without it messing up. So bear with me if there's any complications with the technical difficulties. Now, once again, I'm sitting in the same spot, just finished my workout. Same spot as last week. This is my new remote studio here. And yeah, when people drive by, yeah, you definitely can't care what people think if you're going to be doing a thing like this out in public, because people are driving by and see me parked on the side of the parking lot talking to myself and looking the way that I do, which this look isn't too odd, especially for Vegas. But yeah, let me explain the different look, because I had an idea what I was going to talk about today, and it's kind of a serious matter. So this is my serious Motch look, if you will. The topic of discussion, and I'm sure that a lot of you can relate. I'm sure 90% of you can relate, maybe even more. But probably less than 50% of you will admit to yourselves or to other people that it relates to you. And the topic that I'm referring to is mental illness. And it's become, it's gotten a little bit more of awareness, which I'm very happy about, because I struggle with my own, obviously, or else I wouldn't even be talking about it. But for my own personal issues with it, I want to try to explain a couple things about it that people may not understand. Let some people know that they're not alone, and everybody does think that they are, but you're not. And maybe, you know, listening to this podcast here, maybe, you know, something, you'll get something out of this that is useful and cheers you up, or, you know, is informative, and because you can't get enough information when it comes to things like this. And like I said, you know, there's a real stigma when it comes to the topic, and it's definitely gotten out there a lot more than it used to be. You know what I mean? There's it's definitely more and more people have come out and you know, spoken freely about it, and there is nothing to be ashamed of. You know what I mean? There's no reason, you know, and I'm hoping that it becomes more and more, you know, aware, that people will feel less alone, less isolated, the more that they hear that everybody, you know, everybody deals with some sort of struggles. And now, I'm not an expert. I'm not a therapist. I have a therapist, And I'm going to come right out and say that, a lot of people don't want to go that route, and they feel like they don't need a therapist, or they're ashamed of themselves, or they don't want anybody to know. There's nothing at all to be ashamed of. If you don't go and talk to a therapist, and you don't seek help, and you don't have a psychiatrist to help you out with medication that everybody seems to be against also, they'll put all other kinds of chemicals in their body, but they refuse to take something that's going to help them. And I'm hoping to kind of break that whole cycle of the things that people think and the things that are keeping people from getting themselves better. Now, like I said, I'm not an expert, and I don't know about all mental illnesses, although I do read about it, and it's very interesting to me. Everything, I love psychology, and I love anything that has to do with, like, neurology, is it? Yeah, anything with the brain, you know what I mean? The different parts of the brain and the different chemicals of the brain, and, what kind of effects certain things have, and, this goes out to reaching the right audience, I think, because, a lot of wrestling fans and a lot of wrestlers, assuming, will be tuning in to Monty and the Pharaoh. So I'm targeting that audience that has something to do with the wrestling business, either on the inside or the outside, being a fan or being in the business. And, mental illness and wrestling go hand in hand. And it's not because wrestling causes mental illness. A lot of people blame wrestling for a lot of the drug abuse and the mental, issues that a lot of wrestlers have. Now, the connection between the two is that anytime that you have any type of head trauma, and if you're a wrestler, you have head trauma. Every time you take a bump, it's like getting rear-ended 35 miles per hour, the whiplash. So every time that you take a bump, even if you don't hit your head, every time that you take that bump and your head jars, even if you're tucking your head like you've been taught, you tuck your chin, every time that you take a bump, your brain shifts, okay? Your brain is inside your skull. It's like inside of a fluid, okay? So your brain sits in this fluid. Now, every time that you get, either in a car crash, or you get, even if you don't hit your head, anytime that you get some type of whiplash like that, your brain hits the sides of your skull, boom, 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 like that. So you imagine doing that over and over. That's why they say, save your bumps, man. You only got so many bumps on your bump card, and that doesn't just mean, your back, and, your back and your neck, which also, takes a toll for sure. But that's a whole different subject. This is talking about, basically banging up your brain. That doesn't help when it comes to if you already have any type of brain issues, which a lot of us do, or else we wouldn't get into the wrestling business in the first place. And I say that jokingly, but not jokingly, because anybody who wants to do that for a living, getting beat up, and has that passion of the entertainer brain is a lot different, I tell people, than when you get a high from a crowd and you're willing to put your body on the line. All right, well, we got the first technical difficulty out of the way, man. I think the reason why is because I got too much crap on my phone and I had to delete it, because I don't delete things too often, and I'll do these videos and then I'll leave them on my phone, and piles up, man, takes up my storage. So yeah, it's more of a me situation than a technical situation. But let's see if this stays without. I deleted a whole bunch of stuff, so hopefully we could continue this video. And where we left off was that I was talking about the injuries of wrestling. Yes, the injuries, the brain injuries of wrestling that lead to mental illness. Now, I believe that you have to have some kind of pre-existing mental illness. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I do believe that getting your head all jarred around and your brain, you know, hitting the walls of your skull definitely don't help. That can cause a TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury, which I personally have been diagnosed with that from my time wrestling. And I didn't do much, man. I didn't land on my head a whole bunch. I wasn't doing all kinds of have coronas and, you know, flippity floppity and landed on my head and all. But the years of bumping, you know, I never really, never took chair shots and dumb things like that. But I have been, you know, I've hit my head a couple times, you know, taking a bump and my head would snap back. And I know that I had to have been concussed a couple times because I know, you know, when you get up and you don't know where you are and you know, you're looking around the audience and you don't know, like, you don't know what side of the ring you're on and you're looking for the entrance way to try to get your wits about you and you don't know. That's what I've experienced. So, you know, some of you wrestlers out there might know what I'm talking about. You can relate. But all of that, you know, talking about that the professional wrestler's brain is not 100% to begin with, and that's why we get into professional wrestling, and because we, you know, we desire that crowd approval, and we like the physicality of it, you know, the entertainment of it. So our brains are wired differently than, you know, somebody who's a, you know, 9-to-5 guy and, you know, is happy with that, you know, they say that they can't do what we do, but, a lot of us can't do what they do. And, so I think, you know, all of our brains are, you know, of course different. And, you know, when you're putting your brain, you know, not just your body, but when you're putting your brain through all that trauma, it causes problems that are already pre-existing, I believe. You know, if you have, you know, like, let's just use, you know, depression as an example, because that's kind of like what I know, you know, personally, because I have been diagnosed, this is very hard for me to come out and say, but I'm going to say it because, you know, it might help somebody else that it's hard for them to say. But I've been diagnosed being bipolar, and my moods can change very frequently. And I could be depressed, and then the next day I may not be depressed, and I am on medication to level that out, because if I'm not on medication, my depression will get even deeper, and it's a really tough hole to climb out of. And the bipolar side of that, some people have the highs and lows where their depression is super low, you know, and that's what will happen to me. But my manic phase, that comes in different forms, and some people get this, like, you know, euphoric, am I saying that right? Yeah. You know, like this high where, you know, overconfident and, you know, feeling like, you know, almost like they're invincible, you know, and I've experienced that before too. And that's a great feeling, but when that, you know, come off of that crash, man, that you know, you crash hard. But unfortunately, my manic episodes are in the form of rage and extreme anger and irritability. That is not just your typical having a bad day type of deal. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for myself. It's dangerous for other people. You know, it takes absolutely nothing to trigger. You know, if I'm in that state of mind, you know, I could feel like somebody cut me off. I could feel like somebody's, tailgating me. I could think somebody's, it's like your mind is telling you things that aren't, it's telling you that you're being, fucked with, and you're not. And so you react in a way that normally you wouldn't react that way. You know what I mean? If I'm having a good day, you don't even think about it. Somebody looks at you the wrong way, and you go and you get into a fight. You know what I mean? And that's happened before. And I've gotten myself into some trouble because of those mood swings and those issues. So if you experience that and you haven't spoken to somebody about that, and you think you don't need medication, well, you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to end up dead, because it ain't nothing to play around with, man. There's, chemicals in your brain, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but when those chemicals are not balanced, bad things happen. And in order to balance them out, man, you got to be on medication. And it's not anything to be ashamed of, man. If you have high blood pressure, you take, blood pressure medicine to bring it down. You know what I mean? Nobody's embarrassed about that. But it's the same thing, man, with mental illness. If you don't take medication to help it, it's going to get worse. And so whatever the doctors tell you, man, I mean, you could seek out your own, it's good to do your research, and you could seek out your own, alternatives, herbal stuff, whatever, and all that stuff is great, and it helps, and, whatever. But, if it's a serious condition and doctors tell you that, it ain't going to be fixed with certain types of foods or certain types of supplements, you got to listen to them, man, because it could be real bad news. And, there's a lot of other mental illnesses out there that I know nothing really about except for what I read, things that are much worse than bipolar, schizophrenia, and, multiple personality disorder and everything. And I love reading about all these things because it's really interesting how your brain, can make all these things, happen. Just being like, wired the wrong way, man. And, there's ways to rewire things to make them better. And the only one that I could speak of, my own experience, man, is, the bipolar depression and, anxiety that comes along with the depression. Usually not too bad when it's not during a depression episode. And sometimes it's not even there, but at times the anxiety is, hand in hand with the depression. I don't get the anger stuff anymore, and I contribute that to the medicine. You know what I mean? That keeps me from getting, even if I'm having one of my, my not so good days, where I'm feeling irritable, I don't get to that point where, there's, it gets to a point where it's like, all right, I better not leave the house today because I can't be around people today, and it's very hard to deal with that when you're doing what I do. You know what I mean? If I have, an appearance to do, or even making a video like this, man, it's very hard to, to interact, get into character, and I have missed out on some things because, I just didn't have it in me to go and pretend. And that's another thing, man. There is no, people that don't know, this video is going out to the people that have experienced what I'm talking about, because only those that have experienced it know what I'm talking about. Just waiting, because I tried it already, and it already told me that I had to get rid of some of my stuff again. So I just got rid of a whole bunch of stuff here, and hoping that third time is a charm, and I won't have to go in and delete a whole bunch of things. I probably deleted things that I wish I didn't delete, but I was doing it real quick, and hoping that there won't be any more interruptions. Now, Where was I? I was talking about the people that don't understand, that you can't understand. There's no way for you to understand. It's like, if you weren't diabetic and you're trying to understand what somebody that has diabetes feels like and goes through. It's like, I heard somebody say something about, imagine that you're colorblind and everybody's telling you to look at how beautiful and colorful everything is. You can't. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about any mental illness, is that when people don't understand, they say things like snap out of it. Not snap into it. They tell you to snap out of it. Oh, man, what do you got to be depressed about, man? Come on, snap out of it. Let me tell you something right now. You really want to piss off somebody that has any type of mental illness, you say that to them. Because that is like the worst thing that you can say. It's not something, it's not a choice. It's not something that you could, snap out of because, because they tell you to. It's not, it's like, oh, they say snap out of it, and you're like, oh, well, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, you're right. It has nothing to do with anything that's going on in your outside world. There's been plenty of people that have committed suicide, that have had, money, fame, family, everything. Look at Robin Williams. You know what I mean? There's always some mental illness that leads to that unhappy place that makes them want out. And it doesn't matter what you have, in the physical world. In your mind, you are not happy. And you can't be happy based on physical things. You could win the lottery. If you're going through a depressive stage, you could win the lottery and it will not change the fact that you're going through a depressive episode. Try to understand that. Now, another reason why people don't understand is because people use the word depressed in the wrong fashion. And they'll say things like, my car broke down, I'm so depressed. You're not depressed. You are not happy about the situation. Two different things. Clinical depression is exactly that. It's a chemical thing, all right, where it's not there's such thing as a situational depression. Somebody in your family dies. That could trigger you to get depressed, yeah. But there's triggers, and then there's people that don't even need a trigger, that absolutely nothing will happen, and from one day to the next, man, it's like, you know what? Yesterday I was happy. Today I'm not, I'm feeling depressed. Nothing happened. Nothing changed in between yesterday and today. It's just the way that it is. And the way that I look at it is that when that happens, man, I just say to myself, you know what? It's like having a cold, okay? It's like having a flu. You get sick. You get over it. You know what I mean? You get sick. You take care of it the best way that you can. You get better and you move on. And that's the way that I think about depression. I know that it's not going to last. I know that that's not where I'm stuck, and I know that that's not really me. Just like when you're sick, man, you don't go, oh, well, I have the flu and I'm going to feel like shit forever. It's not, it's the same thing, man. Now the only way that it's going to relieve itself and it's going to, subside is by taking care of yourself and being on the medication that you're supposed to be on. Now, one of the worst things you could do is if you're on medication and you decide, well, I don't need this anymore, because you're feeling good. You don't realize that you're feeling good because of the medication. A lot of people, including myself, have made that mistake, and that's one of the biggest mistakes that you could make, is saying, oh, well, you know what? I guess it's gone. I've been feeling pretty good. I'm going to stop taking this. And then what happens is your body needs that. You know what I mean? It straigens you out. You know what I'm saying? So now you stop, and your brain starts to go haywire because it's not getting what it needs to regulate. Okay, I'm doing a lot of comparisons here, but if you look at somebody who's diabetic and they need insulin, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you take a diabetic and you say, you know, the diabetic says, oh, I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to take my insulin. I'm fine. You know what I mean? I don't need it. You do need it, you know? And the same thing, you know, blood pressure and, you know, any illness, man, you know what I mean? If there's a medication out there, there's a reason. And I'm not saying medicate yourself for everything, man. If there's ways around it, you know, a lot of people are against medication, and if you found something that works, you know, a lot of people smoke weed and it helps them to relieve a lot of, you know, their depression, anxiety, whatever. Hey, man, if that works, that's great. That's awesome. You know what I mean? I personally wish that I wasn't having to take certain medications. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be on a bunch of medications for anything. But, you know, it is what it is. And sometimes you got to just do what you got to do. And just remember, you know, when you're in a depressive state or in a manic state or anything in between, look at it like you're not thinking with your real brain. It's almost like your brain is like it's working. It's not working the way it's supposed to, right? So look at it like, okay, if you get drunk, okay, and you're all fucked up and you're, you know, you're making decisions, okay, you're feeling a certain way, or, you know, you got a lot more balls to walk up to the girl that you're checking out or whatever like that. But normally you know that you wouldn't do that. You know it's the alcohol, right? So it's kind of the same thing, man. It's like, you know, your brain is impaired. So you're going to make some bad decisions when you're drinking. Or maybe, you know, maybe you'll make some decisions that you normally wouldn't make, like walking up to that girl, whatever. But the point is that when your brain isn't operating right, you got to realize that. You got to say, I'm not really depressed. And your mind will play tricks on you where it's like you don't want to be depressed for no reason, and you know that you are. So what you'll do is you'll take a reason, you'll make up a reason, you'll attach a reason, you know, to the depression that wasn't bothering you yesterday. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like when you're feeling fine, you don't think about like that you're broke, right? It's like, all right, it is what it is, and you know, I'm broke every day. Why is being broke affecting me today? Now all of a sudden you're down on the dumps because you're like, oh, look at how I live, look at the car I drive, oh, this is pathetic. But it's not, man. It's just the way that you're thinking at that particular time. You understand what I'm talking about? I drive a piece of shit car and I live in a piece of shit apartment. Right now, I don't care. When I'm depressed and I look around, I go, look at how pathetic this is, you know? It's the same apartment, it's the same car. Different way of thinking. You know, it's your perception of things, man. It's like you know, you see things differently, man. So you got to remember the best thing to do when you're going through any type of depression, you know, whether it be your regular clinical depression, you know, there's a bunch of different names for it, you know, bipolar, you know, the seasonal affective disorder, which is a big thing this time of year. You know, that definitely triggers mine, man, this time of year. You know, when it starts getting dark early and it's cold, and here in Vegas, it's not even as bad as the East Coast or, you know, other places that I've lived. You know, once it, so usually like, you know, clockwork, man, right at the, you know, second week of October, third week of October, it sets in, man. You know, I'm like, okay, here we go, getting my annual, you know, sickness. And I just got to keep it in my head that, you know what, it's going to go away, man. I'm going to have some good days and some bad days during this time period. And, you know, I'll definitely feel better in the spring. But you got to look at it like that's what it is, man. You're just sick for the time being. But just like when you're sick, man, you got to take care of yourself, you know. They tell you, oh, you got a cold, take vitamin C and echinacea. Well, you know, If that makes you feel better, then do it. You know what I mean? If whatever makes you feel better, don't get down on yourself because you can't do certain things, man. Allow yourself to be in the state that you're in, man. Say, you know what? I'm fucked up right now. I'm sick right now. I'm gonna stay in. So what? I'm gonna miss the gym today. You know, don't get down on yourself, man, because you can't do it, because you don't want to be around people, whatever. Hey, man, I'm gonna stay in. I'm gonna watch some movies. I'm gonna catch up on some wrestling, old school stuff. You know what I mean? Things that cheer you up. Put on some music that you like that'll, you know, play with your dogs or whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do whatever makes you feel better, and don't worry about, you know, what you would be doing if you weren't in that state of mind. Let it go. You can't help it. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to stress about the things that you can't do anything about, man. It doesn't make any sense. You drive yourself crazy. People drive themselves crazy about all the stuff that's going on in the world, and they drive themselves nuts about things that they can't do nothing about, and they'll get all worked up and get into arguments on Facebook and Twitter, and arguments, you know, social media, in person, and, you know, all because, you know, they're getting upset at the world because of what's going on, and there's nothing they can do to help it, man. You know, just don't try to change the things that you can't change, man. You know, and don't let the things that you can't change upset you, man. There's enough other stuff in the world that you can change that you need to be focusing on. You know what I mean? If it is a situational thing, man, you know, if you lose somebody, if something, you know, tragic happens, and you need time to grieve, man, it's okay. You know, don't beat yourself up because you're depressed. Of course you are, you know. But as far as, you know, that feeling alone and feeling isolated and feel like nobody goes through what you go through, you've heard it a million times from a million different people, and nobody's excluded, man. There are celebrities that you're probably big fans of that go through the exact same thing, if not worse. And of course they don't talk about it. You know, some have come out and talked about it, and I like hearing that that there are, you know, people that have a platform that people listen to, you know, famous people that have fans, and they, you know, these celebrities will come out and say, hey, you know what, you know, I suffer from depression, I suffer from, you know, this and that. Not a big deal, man. They're human. They ain't no different than us, man. Probably your favorite wrestler, your favorite music artist, your favorite, you know, football player, whoever, man. You know, there are celebrities, probably more so, man. That's why you hear about so many celebrities that have either committed suicide or accidentally overdosed because, you know, drug abuse and addiction go hand in hand, man. There's very seldom will you see somebody who has an addiction problem that doesn't have a depression problem. And, you know, sometimes they're just trying to escape that feeling, and so they take whatever they think that will help them to not feel that way anymore, and that's what they call, you know, an accidental suicide, man. It's like they're unhappy. They didn't do it on purpose, but they were trying to escape that feeling. And, you know, being that this is a wrestling podcast, and I'm hoping that there's wrestlers out there that are listening to this and that go through the same thing and that understand that, you know, you're definitely not alone, man. And when you're in that mood and you're in a depressive episode, you think that you're alone. But again, that's just your mind telling you that. You know, when you're not depressed, think about it and say, I know, you know that you're not alone. You know that there's no way that you could be the only person in the world feeling what you're feeling. But when you're in it, it's hard to imagine that there's anybody else feeling what you feel. But just know that when you're not feeling that way, you think a lot differently. So, and like I said, man, there's a lot of guys, a lot of girls that have come out, you know, and spoke about this, which I think is a great thing, and I hope they continue to do it. And this was hard for me to come out and admit and talk to, but talk about, but only because, it was there's a stigma so long, you know what I mean? And now that I've been given a platform doing what I do, and Monty and the Pharaoh gave me my own segment, I want to use that not just to entertain people, and people will listen. If you don't have a platform, it's hard to get out and reach people. And, and even if you have a platform, if you're not somebody that, if you're just your regular average Joe, maybe people aren't going to listen to your message. But if I have any fans out there that like what I do, and look forward to seeing my podcast or seeing anything that I do, and they hear this, they might go, hey, man, you know what? Motch is a cool dude. And shit, man, if he's got all these issues, and he could speak about it, then maybe I can too, And that's what I'm hoping, man. You know what I mean? If one person listens to this and goes and gets themselves help or realizes that they're not alone, then mission accomplished. It's not easy to admit, that you're not perfect. And it's more common than not. You know what I'm saying? The only reason why you don't hear about a lot of people is because they keep it quiet, not because they don't have the same issues that you have. So keep that in mind, man. And you hear it on every time anybody is talking about this. There's numbers to call. There's a suicide hotline. I don't have the number handy right now, but it's easy to find. There's always somebody out there. There's always somebody out there to talk to. Even if you're not suicidal, man, you pick up the phone and you could call and speak to somebody, and it's usually people on the other end that understand it, and that suffer from what you're suffering from. Because like I said before, otherwise, you can't, nobody could put themselves in that place. You know what I mean? If they haven't lived it and experienced it. Talk to a friend that might have come out and told you that they go through the same thing, that they have depression issues. The only thing I would recommend is don't talk to anybody that doesn't get it. Anybody who's that there's any chance of them saying snap out of it, or what do you have to be depressed about? You got everything going for you. They don't understand. You don't want to talk to people like that. I know for myself, that's right there enough to get me to my boiling point. That right there will trigger me, and it's not a good thing. But in closing, I want to tell the people that may not, because the people that experience it already know what I'm talking about. They already know, like, the metaphor that I gave, or the analogy, whatever, of being colorblind, and somebody's trying to tell you, hey, look at how beautiful that, that red car is, or, look at how blue the sky is, or whatever. And it's like you're sitting there like, I'm not seeing what you're seeing, man. From my years of being, and this is like, I've had these issues since I was a kid, man. I was not an angel as a kid. I know that I had all these issues. They just weren't diagnosed at the time, because back then they didn't really have a diagnosis. They just thought that I was, a misbehaved kid, or they thought I was on drugs or whatever. But we've moved forward, and there's a lot of awareness now. It's still not enough awareness, but for those that don't understand what it feels like, I want to try to shed a little light on what it feels like. When it's real bad, imagine that you're when you're sleeping and you're having a dream, but it doesn't feel like a dream, right? It feels really real. And whatever's happening in the dream, it's like you're living it, right? You're, it's like, it's you can't tell the difference between a dream and reality, okay? So let's say that you're having like a really bad dream, and you wake up, and you're like, oh man, thank God that was just a dream. That was awful. I felt awful. This happened, that happened. Oh my God, and you just know, like, in the dream that you were either like real upset over something, whatever, but when you wake up, you realize, well, thank God, you know what I mean? Now imagine it being the opposite way, that when you wake up, waking up is actually the nightmare. You understand what I'm saying? So you're sleeping and everything's fine. If you could get to sleep, because a lot of time anxiety comes with depression, now you can't sleep. If you finally get yourself to sleep and you have like happy dreams or whatever, right? Now you wake up, and the minute your eyes open, you realize that that was just a dream, and that you're actually living the nightmare the way that you feel, and you wish that you could wake up from it, but you're not dreaming. That's the reality, okay? So just imagine what it feels like when you have a bad dream and you wake up from it, what a relief it is. Now imagine that you had a really good dream and you wake up and realize that that's not your reality. That's the best way that I could put what that feels like. So for those that think that you could just snap out of it, it doesn't work that way. If it was that easy, we'd all be snapping out of it and we wouldn't be discussing nothing right now. So I know this isn't your typical happy joking type of entertainment that you're used to, but I wanted to use this platform as a way to help and shed light and bring awareness to those that are not aware, and try to understand, man. If you're going through it, understand that you're not alone. If you don't understand it, if you've never been through it, try to relate by the things that I've said. It's like another analogy would be like imagine you're you're drowning, right? You're drowning, and let's say that you're like drowning in you're on the ice and the ice breaks, right? Now you've fallen into the water and you can't find the hole that you fell into, and there's just ice and you're trapped underneath that ice, and you could see the outside and you want to be on that other side, but you're trapped under this ice and you can't get out, and you're banging on it, and you just want to feel the relief of breathing. Okay, let that sink in your head the next time that you tell somebody to snap out of it and you think that you understand, because you don't understand. And don't try to make believe that you understand. Be there for your friend or your family member the best that you can. But don't tell them that you get it. And don't tell them, oh, well, I was depressed too. My dog died, and yeah, you were depressed because your dog died. It may have triggered your depression if you were already, if you already had, susceptible to having depression. Okay, big difference. Don't put yourself in somebody's shoes who are, who actually go through depression or anxiety or, manic episodes. Just try to be there, to listen. Just listen. Don't say nothing, because whatever you say is probably going to be the wrong thing, because you don't know. You know what I mean? Just let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that you're there for them. Let them know that, they can talk to you if they need to vent. You know what I'm talking about? So hopefully this message didn't bring you down. Hoping that it actually cheered some people up and made other people aware. And I just thought it was a good idea to touch on this topic, because this time of year it's tough, man. Some people don't have family and friends, and they're alone during the holidays, and I can relate to that, because I don't have family here, and I got like one friend here, and luckily they're like family to me. So this time of year is tough, man. You know what I mean? If you have any type of depression issues, man, the seasons will trigger it for sure. But stay strong. Try to understand that you're not alone, and try to help other people. That believe it or not, man, it really helps. You know what I mean? It helps me talking to you guys right now. You know, if you suffer from any of this, talk to people that also suffer from it, because they need somebody that does know what they're talking about. They need somebody that knows what it feels like. So you'll be surprised how much better you feel after helping somebody that is going through the same thing that you're going through. So on that note, I'm gonna let you guys go. Hopefully you all are smiling right now. And I'll be back next week with a little holiday edition of Motch-0-Mandays. That'll cheer you up. Yeah. This was the gloomy one. This was the Grinch one. This was the Ebenezer Scrooge type of podcast. Hopefully not. Hopefully it didn't get you down in bah humbug and all that. But next week will be something entertaining and fun. So I'll see you guys. And thumbs up, because there was no more technical difficulties, because I erased everything off of my phone. So I hope I didn't have any valuable stuff on there that I'm supposed to share with you guys at a later date, because chances are it went bye-bye. I will see you when I see you. Yeah, dig it.